Hi Harriet, Mr. Corbett here, studio from my studio at home, and I'm going to run through the next video, which is concerned with pages 10 to 13. So if we just turn to page 10, okay, and the first exercise that we're going to do in page 10 is for self-evaluation. And as you can see, there are different sections in this. For example, drawing skills, working with materials, discussions in class, effort in class, and homeworks. And what you've got to do is you've got to circle the number you think best describes your level. So for example, in drawing skills, if you thought your drawing skills were excellent, you might circle number 6 or 7. If you thought you were amazing, like you all are, you might do 8 or 9. Or if you just thought your work was very good or just good, put in 4 or 5. And do the same with working with materials. Rate yourself in there. Discussions in class, do a little rating in there. Your effort in class and also your effort at home, so put in your little rating in there. And then for homeworks, okay, so some of the homeworks are included in the home learning. You might want us to think, how well do you think you did? And in the box at the bottom, write down for me, what did you do well? So what do you think you do well? Was it drawing? Was it working with materials? Were you discussing in class? Did you make a lot of effort? Did you learn new skills? Things like that. What did you have problems with? And obviously you're always learning as an artist, and you're all young artists, so you all obviously will have to be learning about different things. So some people might have problems with that, might have problems with how they drew, might have problems with how they colored in, might have problems with maybe using the lines or the tones or something like that. And if you did, just write down which problems you had and what have you learned. So during this first section from September to October, what have you learned in art so far? Okay. Then if we turn to page 11, we have the October assessment. So using the tonal techniques you have learned, shade in the objects below. And you can always refer back to the tonal exercises that you did on page 3 and page 4. And you can also look at maybe using tonal scale in page 5 as well. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to try and make them look 3D by using either the tonal scale, hatching, which is lines in one direction, cross hatching, lines on 2 directions, or stippling in your drawing. Stippling is basically little dots. Okay, the best way to do it is probably to use a tonal, the one with the pressure. Okay, so going from very, very dark on the outside and bringing it in to lighter there. Try and make your light along the center here. You might have a little light section here, so don't forget, if you refer back to pages 3 and 4, you'll see the shapes and where to put the dark and light tones. Obviously there's another cuboid or cube again, so the light might hit the top and it might be darker on these 2 sides. And then maybe you could have the light hitting the center, so it'll be darker along here and darker along there, and getting lighter as you go in towards the light in the middle. Okay, so if we look at maybe one that was done previously, you can see that this student has put in the darkest along the outside and made it darker, or darker the outside, getting lighter towards the middle. Same here with those. As you can see, this one, I suppose you wouldn't really need to put the circle here, and maybe have them going down like that, okay, in a curve. So that's an idea of how to do the first part. Then we turn over to part 2, and it's your October assessment part 2, and this is basically the Zentangles that you were working on page 8 and page 9. And all I want you to do, that's already been drawn for you, all I want you to do is add patterns into each of the sections. Okay, there's a lot of sections there, so don't have to, you can maybe put in like a little zigzag in there, and then put another zigzag in there, so alternate sections have little zigzag and just make it quicker. And you can put in colors and little dots and everything else that you want to. You don't need to do the background, just do the actual snake itself. Okay, this one was started. So as you can see, there's a lot of detail in here. You don't have to use as much detail, and you may or may not have time to do the color on it. So it's entirely up to you. I will accept just the patterns in it. So, but if you do have time, it might be an idea just to do the color in it as well. And then finally, what we have done so far in art, this is page 13. So I want you to describe all the things you've done in art so far. And that's very easy, because what you do is you go from the start of the booklet and you go from page 2. You learned about the art rules, you learned about pencil degrees and tonal scale, you learned about using tone to show form, page 4. Page 5, you learned about tonal scales using lines. Page 6, you learned about using lines to create textures, lines to show textures in page 7, and so on and so forth. Zentangles, add them all in there, what you've done in art so far. What new skills have you learned? What did you enjoy and why? That's entirely up to you. What new skills have you learned, maybe in tone, using colored pencils, using Zentangles, using lines, using a whole range of different things, okay? And what improvements could you make to your work? What would you have done better? So maybe a line or two about the improvements. How would you make your work look better? Maybe more effort, maybe adding more detail into the work. So you might want to think about that, okay? And that's basically all in this little video about what you have to do on pages 10 to 13, okay? Thanks very much. Make sure you subscribe. I'm Mr. Corbett. Thanks very much. Bye.